Hi, everyone. My name is Kiara Ferguson, and I am the host of the APV podcast. And I welcome you to our first podcast here today. We are going to be talking about the importance of vision health and vision screening in children going back to school. I'm also the membership and marketing specialist of the APV program, and I'm so excited to have you all here to stop by and take a listen. So today, our guest speaker is Dr. Melissa Petro, and she is also the program director of the APV program. And we are so excited to have her here with us today. So I'm going to give her a moment just to go ahead and introduce herself and give us a little bit more about her.
Hi, Kiara. Thank you for having me today. So as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Melissa Petro. I have the great fortune of working as the director for the Association for Pediatric Vision. We are a HRSA grant-funded program, and our primary goal is to increase and improve children's vision initiatives for those from birth all the way up to age 5. So we work with the really young ones, and we're in efforts to make sure that screening programs are helping throughout the country. So we want to provide guidance, provide standardization, and just really help improve the screening atmosphere out there for vision.
Well, that is very great. And as Dr. Melissa said, those are all the points that we aim here to cover at APV. So definitely stay tuned, follow us on Facebook at My Association for Pediatric Vision, and also check out our webpage, myapv.org. You can find more information about our program and all the great things that we're doing there. But now we're going to get a little bit more into our topic of today, which is the importance of vision health and vision screening and young children going back to school. So I know it's that time of year, Dr. Melissa, and we have all the little ones geared up to go back to school. And I know that it's so important to make sure that we're setting them up for success in the classroom. And so as a parent, where do you start?
That's a great question, Kiara, and I should probably mention that I am a mom of an 11-month-old, so very, very young, but I work a lot as an optometrist with young kids in practice. So not only do we have patients and colleagues' kids going into school, but this is that really busy time where everyone's bombarded and overwhelmed. So let's talk a little bit about some of the guidelines that the American Optometric Association has recommended for eye exams.
Okay.
So they recommend that children get an eye exam between 6 months and 12 months of age. And there's actually a free program for that. It's called Infant C, so the Infancy program. So that's a free exam for any providers, and you can just look that up on Google, or their website will show who the doctors in your area, the optometrists who are infancy providers. So that's a great time to get your infant in for a free and early exam to make sure everything's normal and healthy and get those early developmental things going. They also recommend at age 3 an eye exam, and this is a comprehensive exam in addition to age 5, you know, just as you're about to start into kindergarten, and then either every year after or whatever your eye care provider recommends. So those are the primary ones, those are the important ones, and those are really faster flowing, easier exams than your regular 1 or 2 visit.
Right.
You have to be pretty engaged with those, Kiara, if you can imagine. So a lot of objective instead of subjective testing, and just making sure that you can really get the kids, keep their interest. You've got to be rapid fire with those, but they're very fun. And I always tell the kids that I see, it's not the dentist, we're not scary.
Yeah, the dentists are a little scary. So I'm glad that that's something that you do to ensure your little patients that they're in great hands. So with that being said, I heard that you mentioned comprehensive eye exam, and I know that that's something that, you know, I struggled with to understand the difference of an eye exam and a screening. Could you give us a little bit more information about the difference between those two?
Absolutely. So that's a big confusing point for a lot of patients and just everyone in the general public. So when you have a screening, that's when you're checking for possible vision issues. So that can be done. A lot of times schools will do that, if they have the capacity to do so. It's either your eye chart or some of those automated instrument-based screenings.
Right.
So those are some of the basics, just to say, kind of highlight, hey, there might be a problem here. And
Okay.
that's the extent. So they're not going to tell you, they might say, hey, there's a problem that might be related to this, but you're not getting a true diagnosis, and you're certainly not getting a solution to this problem.
Wow.
So they're extremely important, that initial ability to say, hey, there's something going on, we need further evaluation. But that's the key, Kiara, is that you really need to make sure that this is step one to get you to step two, which is that comprehensive eye exam.
Okay.
And that's where you go in and see your eye doctor. Now, there's also a confusion sometimes with pediatrician visits. So the pediatrician does a million things in their visits, and they are so busy, and they're seeing kids for wellness checks and all kinds of things, which reminds me, I've got to set up my son's for 1-year pediatrician visit.
Oh, a year already.
Yeah, time flies, right? But they're just doing a screening. That's not a true comprehensive eye exam. They don't have the capacity for it, to be quite honest. They're doing so many things, and that's just not the specialty that they have, which is where your eye care providers, your optometrists primarily, your ophthalmology, your specialists, your pediatrician or pediatric ophthalmology specialists, those are the ones that you want to take your kids to for their eye exam.
Right.
And that's the 6 to 12 months, the 3 years, the age 5, and as recommended by your doctors, then on. That's those age ranges. That's for a comprehensive eye exam, not just a screening.
Okay. Well, definitely thank you so much for clarifying. I know that causes a lot of confusion. So I'm so glad that we had you here to clarify and clear the air on that. And that leads me into my next topic that I wanted to touch on, which is screen time. And knowing that students are spending a lot of time at home on screens and on tablets, they're using it for entertainment and as secondary means for education. And they're also now using those in school as well. Why is this so important that we monitor that our children aren't spending all day on a screen or on a tablet?
It's a really interesting and science-based concern. It's called the myopia epidemic. So myopia means you're nearsighted, so you can see really well up close, but far is blurry.
Okay.
So when you're nearsighted or myopic, as we say, your life is great up close. You can see pretty well. You can read. You're looking at screens and tablets. That's the part of your vision that is really thriving. But distance is very difficult. So as we get into more screen time, it's become a lot more apparent, especially with the with COVID-19 and more device use and less time outdoors, or less time that kids have just with the improvements in technology. And it's just a way of life. It's not something that we're saying absolutely don't be on screens ever. It's bad for you. It's not feasible. We have to be realistic about boundaries and balances. So when we're talking about these things, there's a huge increase in school and out of school, kids using screens. Every parent, or I should say almost all adults across the country, even the world, have some sort of phone or device. And of course, kids have access to those in different respects. So technology is out there, it's improved, it's important, it really takes things forward. But there's concern with vision, with eye fatigue, with all kinds of aspects of changing your prescription. So what this myopia epidemic is, and it's worldwide. It started really significantly. The research was in China, just because they were so focused on indoor education and screen time and things. And now we're seeing it a lot. I see it with my patients, especially with, like we talked about, like I mentioned, COVID-19, all of the online learning. So kids aren't looking as much in the distance, as you would just in a normal, to look across the classroom, for example. They're not doing that as much, or maybe more so now, but screen time has truly increased. So the need to use your distance vision has increased in some settings. And so the development has changed. That's what the science is saying.
Oh, wow.
It's really fascinating and also a bit scary. because we're talking about our kids and their ability to see at distance. Now, of course, there's glasses that fix your vision, and there's a lot of genetics, of course, that go into everything. If mom and dad have glasses, your kids are more likely to need a pair of glasses.
Right.
But when we're talking about screen time, it's really important to not get rid of it completely. That's just not feasible. It's not even what's necessarily the best for growth and overall education. But we're talking about reducing unnecessary screen time or taking breaks from it. So it's really important to make sure that kids aren't on. If they're on the screens a lot at school, at home.
Right.
You want to make sure that it's not overdoing it, because it really can be detrimental to their development, to their growth, and just their health. It's a lot of time just staring at screens, and it's hard to say kids should never do some things, but it's really what's best for their development. And the American Academy of Ophthalmology has the recommendation that kids under 18 months, so your 1.5-year-olds and below, should not really have any screen time. And some agree, some disagree. I know personally, I don't like my young one to be on screens when there's not really a huge benefit.
Right.
But of course, there's some exposure everywhere, so you have to, take things as you will in your own personal settings. I'm a big advocate for parents doing what's best for your own kids. So by no means is this a parenting podcast.
No. Just gonna give tips.
But at least an ocular health update and some ideas on how to set your youngster up for success, or if you're a teacher or a vision screener, to know what kind of things you can do to help out some of the kiddos. And some of those are just taking breaks. So whether it's a little bit of screen time here and, oh, hey, let's do this activity, or it's snack time, or whatever it may be in your setting.
Right. Just giving the little ones some break time from their screens is never a bad thing.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dr. Melissa, we thank you so much for joining the APV podcast today. Were there any final closing remarks or any final tips and tricks that you want to leave us with here?
One thing that I like to recommend to patients of any age, so this could be your adults, your school-age children, your very young kids, if you're on any sort of screens, iPads, phones, computers, any devices of that sort, there's the 20-20-20 rule. Really simple, really effective, because not only do you have this concern with changing prescriptions, but there's eye fatigue, and kids' focusing systems, and adults, I should say, are getting really strained. Your eyes are muscles. So when you're straining and focusing on this thing that's up close for hours on end, whether you're gaming or whatever it may be, if you're not relaxing your eyes to their natural resting position, it creates a lot of fatigue and dryness and all kinds of things that really come together. So this 20-20-20 rule, every 20 minutes of screen time, look 20 feet away and blink for about 20 seconds just to relax your eyes and reset them. And it's small, but it really makes a big difference in just relaxing your focusing system, relaxing, making sure you're blinking. You blink on average significantly less when you're staring at a screen.
Right.
But I mean, that's the easiest one. It's a quick fix, but it makes such a difference for anyone of any age. So even that small fix can just, and it doesn't have to hinder you if you're working on your computer for your job, just a quick break. You don't have to change your day by any means. I always tell kids it's not an excuse to stop homework or anything. Just a quick break for the eyes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that trick. I think that I might try that as well once I wrap up here today. But again, Dr. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. And I thank you listeners for tuning in and listening to our first podcast. This was the back to school edition, and I hope that you've enjoyed it and learned some new tips and tricks that you can take to help make sure that your little one succeeds in the classroom this year. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you guys stay tuned for our next podcast dropping next month. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiara.
You're very welcome.